Customer insults young waitress shocked when her famous parent arrives. Have you ever judged someone based on their appearance, only to realize later that you couldn't have been more wrong? Imagine insulting a young waitress, believing she's just another ordinary girl trying to make ends meet, only to be shocked when her famous parent walks through the door. What happens next is a story of instant karma, where judgment is turned upside down and humility takes center stage. It was a quiet afternoon in a trendy cafe tucked away in a busy downtown area. The sound of the espresso machine humming, the clink of silverware against porcelain, and the murmur of hushed conversations filled the air. The cafe had its regulars, people who came in every day seeking their daily fix of caffeine or a peaceful space to unwind. Among the staff was Emily, a 19-year-old waitress with a bright smile and a quiet demeanor. She had been working at the cafe for several months to save up money for college, hoping one day to study art and make a name for herself. Though she had big dreams, her reality was far from glamorous. Each day, she donned the standard uniform of a white apron and black skirt, carrying trays full of drinks and food for customers. Emily was the type of person who didn't mind the hard work. She greeted every customer with a warm smile, no matter how her day had been. But that day was different. That day, she was about to encounter someone who would make her question her patience and resilience in ways she hadn't expected. A man in his mid-40s walked into the cafe, his suit pressed neatly and his tie perfectly in place. His demeanor was sharp, and his eyes scanned the room as if he were surveying every inch of the establishment with a critical eye. His name was Richard, a wealthy businessman known for his arrogance and penchant for treating service workers with condescension. Emily noticed him immediately as he approached the counter. She greeted him with a polite, "Good afternoon, sir. How can I help you today?" But Richard barely acknowledged her. He grunted in response and waved her off, muttering, "Just bring me a coffee, Black, and hurry up." Emily felt the sting of his dismissive tone but didn't let it show. She simply nodded and moved to prepare his order. When she returned with the coffee, she placed it gently in front of him, offering a soft smile. "Here you go, sir. Enjoy." Richard glanced up at her with a sneer, his lips curling into a condescending smile. "Is this how you usually serve coffee? The presentation is pathetic," he remarked, waving his hand dismissively at the cup. "It's just a coffee. Not that I expected much from someone like you." Emily blinked, taken aback. She wasn't used to such rudeness, but she had learned over the months to bite her tongue. Her personal life had been difficult, and she knew the best way to get through her shift was to remain composed. But Richard wasn't done. "You really think you'll make it in life, doing this for a living?" he continued, his tone dripping with mockery. "A girl like you. You must have nothing else going for you. Pathetic." Emily's face flushed with embarrassment. She felt small under his harsh words, but she forced herself to stand tall. "I'm sorry you feel that way, sir. If there's anything else I can do, just let me know." Richard looked up at her with disdain, his smirk growing wider. "I doubt there's much you can do for me, sweetheart." The words hit harder than Emily had expected. She turned and walked away, feeling the sting of his insults deep in her chest. As she passed the other tables, she tried to maintain her composure, though her mind raced with thoughts of self-doubt. She had always dreamed of something more than waiting tables, but right now, it was the only way she could make ends meet. Hearing Richard's cruel words made her question whether her dreams were even possible. Was she just wasting her time? Meanwhile, Richard sat smugly at his table, sipping his coffee, fully unaware of the emotional toll his words had taken. He was so wrapped up in his own superiority that he didn't even consider how his behavior might be affecting the young waitress. But then, just as Emily was returning to the back of the cafe, the door swung open, and a woman walked in. The atmosphere shifted instantly. She was tall, dressed in a stylish black coat and sunglasses. As she entered, the chatter in the cafe seemed to quiet down, and a few people looked up from their drinks to glance at her. Emily noticed her immediately, recognizing her as none other than Olivia Foster, a renowned actress who had made a name for herself in both television and film. Olivia Foster was a regular customer at the cafe. She often came in to escape the paparazzi, seeking solace in the quiet ambiance. Emily had served her a few times before and had always been starstruck by her quiet elegance and kind demeanor. But what happened next was something Emily never could have imagined. As Olivia walked toward the counter, she glanced at Richard, who was still sitting with a smug expression on his face, having no idea who the woman approaching him was. "Excuse me, I believe you're sitting in my seat," Olivia said, her voice cool but not unkind. Richard looked up, startled by her sudden appearance. "Excuse me?" he replied, his arrogance slipping a little. "This is a public cafe, lady. I'm not moving anywhere." Olivia raised an eyebrow, her gaze never leaving his. "Actually, I've been coming here for years, and this is where I sit every time, so, if you don't mind." Richard, now embarrassed by the confrontation, stood up to move. He glanced around the cafe, clearly trying to save face in front of the few customers who had noticed the exchange. Olivia smiled slightly and sat down, gesturing for Emily to come over. "Don't worry about him," she said warmly as Emily approached. "I hope he didn't cause you any trouble." Emily shook her head, still trying to process the situation. "No, it's fine. I'm just doing my job." Olivia's eyes softened with empathy. "You're doing a wonderful job, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. People like him don't matter. Remember that." Richard, still standing awkwardly, turned to leave, clearly flustered by the unexpected turn of events. As he passed by the counter, he looked at Emily, his face now flushing with embarrassment. "Look, he started, but Olivia cut him off. "You owe her an apology," she said firmly. "You should never treat people that way, no matter who they are, especially when they're just doing their job." Richard opened his mouth, but no words came out. He had no idea that the woman he had been so rude to, the one he had insulted without a second thought, was someone close to someone as important as Olivia Foster. He stammered an apology, but it was clear to everyone in the cafe that his words were hollow. Olivia, without another glance at him, turned her attention back to Emily. "If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I can help you with your dreams," she said, her voice sincere. Emily was stunned. "Thank you," she whispered, not quite believing the kindness that had just been extended to her. As Richard walked out, his arrogance deflated, and the weight of his actions hung over him. Meanwhile, Olivia's intervention had not only changed the course of Emily's day, but also gave her a renewed sense of confidence. She realized that people's worth wasn't determined by their jobs or the clothes they wore. It was defined by who they were as individuals and how they treated others. The incident was a reminder of the power of kindness and the dangers of judgment. No one, regardless of their status, should be judged based on appearances or preconceived notions. Sometimes, the most powerful lessons come from the most unexpected places. This story reminds us all to treat others with respect, no matter their position in life, and to remember that even the smallest acts of kindness can have an enormous impact. So, the next time you find yourself in a situation where judgment is easy, think twice. You never know who might be watching and who might have the power to change everything.